Hi, I'm Dr. Nancy, and I'm your medical celebrity doctor. This is Dr. Nancy Knows. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's episode is going to be featuring Bonnie Stevens. She's an Emmy award-winning documentary producer. Can't wait to talk to her in just a few seconds. Listen, thanks for tuning in, and we can be seen and watched on drnancyknows.com, StarWorldwideNetworks.com, and all of your social media platforms that you've come to know and love about Dr. Nancy Knows. That is Facebook, YouTube, and Vimeo. I'd want to tell you guys a story of an individual that I had the pleasure of going to listen to a presentation. Her name is Debbie Romano, and she is with the Fountain Hills Healthy Heartbeats. She is a certified nutrition and wellness consultant, and she specializes in whole plant-based products. She does free consultations. She's available. Her information is available to you on the screen. Debbie Romano, I shout you out for what you're doing in the community. But let's bring you to Bonnie Stevens. Again, she is a journalist, public relations consultant, communication specialist. She has been in our community for over 26 years, Emmy award-winning documentary producer. Bonnie Stevens is a wonderful person, and I got an opportunity to meet her recently. And you know what I always say, align yourself with individuals that help bring out the best in you. And she is no less than doing that. She's doing that with everyone that she meets in our community, and she's been doing it for many years. Bonnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction.
Oh, no worries. I know that I've not done you justice, and we're going to continue to get to know you throughout this interview.
Sounds fabulous.
Awesome. So listen, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and what you've been doing in our community as a public relations, a journalist, and your mentor? You have provided information in the sciences for many years, a lover of nature.
Yeah, nature is a big part of what I do and what I love. I have been a journalist for as long as I can remember, more than 30 years. I started here in Phoenix at Channel 10, and I was a writer back in those days, an assistant producer, and has spent a lot of years in Flagstaff in northern Arizona and really loving all that Arizona has to offer. And the beautiful thing about being a journalist and being a PR consultant is that you meet people doing incredible things. And that is one of the blessings that I've had in my life, and just to be able to be in this beautiful area, beautiful Arizona, and having stories and be able to be a storyteller that encourage, that inspire, that provide us knowledge. And that's really the joy of being a journalist and a PR consultant.
Well, that's totally amazing, and you do so much more than that. You do also feature a podcast that is called Forced Under Fire. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you decided to do that?
Sure. Well, that was about 10 years ago. I was doing a documentary, and I've done a lot of reporting on science, as you mentioned, and the environment. And of course, up in northern Arizona, we have beautiful ponderosa pine forests. And about 10 years ago, longer than that, there's been this real concern that we've been losing our forests in the West. And we're back in that same cycle again. We've been in a drought for 10 years or so. And when everything is stressed, the trees are more vulnerable, and they're more vulnerable for attack and by things that are out there anyway, bark beetles, and they're just unable to create sap and push them out and protect themselves and compete for nutrients. So we're in that same kind of thing. And you can see this documentary. This is an example of forests that after they've been thinned, then you don't have so many overgrown seedlings, so many little trees that are competing against these bigger trees. And that's one of the problems that causes forest fires, is there just too much competition out there. But when you've got a drought, oh, there I am. When you've got a drought, you've got a situation where the trees are distressed. And so one story I wanted to tell you about, you know, I do a lot of work with scientists, and I help people be at their best when they're getting ready for a media interview, or when they're getting ready for a job interview, or maybe even in their personal life, if they're, you know, trying to impress somebody or be a great presenter. And when we're talking about forest ecology, I wanted to tell you a fun story about, you know, when selling the sizzle. And of course, you know, scientists who work in the forest are all working on trees, and they're trying to find solutions to try to keep our forests stronger and more resilient. And when I was walking through Northern Arizona University's hallways, and I was hearing this sound coming from an entomology lab. So these are scientists that work with bugs, and the sound was, I'm sure you're all familiar if you hear that bump, bump, clap. And that's the sound leading into the song We Will Rock You by Queen. I think we all know that. And so I was wondering why these quiet, very focused scientists were listening to that. And one of them was finding a way to distract bark beetles and to get them to do something different, like leave the trees or turn on each other. And so they were doing acoustic stress. And one of the ways they were doing it was by blasting them with rock music.
Ah, I see. Awesome. Well, that's interesting. I mean, that's one way to save our forest as well.
Sure. It's one way to disrupt their behavior.
And I love the work that you do with nature, and being grounded as an individual. I think it's important that you stay in tune and be grounded with the earth, because there's something to be said about peace and lowering anxiety in yourself as well.
Oh, absolutely. You know, whenever I am distressed or can't get focused or sad even, I turn to nature. And of course, as I mentioned, you know, Arizona is a great place for that. And particularly the Red Rocks Row was a favorite of mine. We were talking earlier before this recording that this live broadcast that, you know, Hawaii is a beautiful healing place as well. And I have to say, you know, there was a time in my life, I'm a natural cheerleader. I'm very excited about life. I have overflowing joy. In fact, it's obnoxious, and I know that. But there was a time in my life, about 2010, when I felt like I had lost my joy. I didn't care about sunsets, our beautiful sunsets anymore. I didn't care about music anymore, which I absolutely love. And so I thought, I have got to pose an intervention on myself. What was going on in my life were a lot of many things, but the three people that liked me the most, my mom, my oldest brother, my oldest sister, were all dying. And that was one thing that was all happening at once. There was not going to be any cure. There was not going to be any solution. And so at one point, I just decided to yank myself out of the environment that I was in, and I sent myself to surfing school on Maui. And honestly, that was maybe one of the best things I could have done. It just distracted me completely immersed me in nature. And I kept going, you know, for a couple of days. I was going, when am I going to see the beauty of this environment? When am I going to feel normal again? And it took just sitting in the ocean and having a sea turtle pop its head up that just made me smile for no reason, and it seemed like everything changed. I could see the palm trees swaying. I could feel the breeze. It was that transformation.
Well, I think that sometimes you do have to reset yourself and remove yourself from the environment. You know, we've had a tumultuous previous year with COVID,
Sure.
And a lot of people have had anxiety and trying to figure out ways to reset themselves. And I often say here at Dr. Nancy Knows, make yourself a priority and surround yourself with people that pour into you as well. So that's very important. Let's transition a bit and talk about your journey and what motivates you. Who has your mentors been? You've been a professional in your career, and you continue to strive to be better and serve the needs of the community in which you support. How does that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, because you do it very well.
Oh, well, thank you so much. But one thing that I really tried when I was in my darkest time was to just pour information into my brain, you know, to listen to books on tape from people that I admire and people that I wanted to be like. I wanted to live like they live and see things the way they see. So, you know, a lot of that is whatever your spirituality is, you know, if you're feeding on that motivation, you know, that's a great place to start. feeding your brain. Another is movement. You know, I was doing a story recently on mental health and physical health, and coming out of the pandemic, you know, a lot of people are very anxious and distressed. And so a gym owner I know was saying, you know, we always talk about fitness, but we're having people tell us that, you know, just being in the gym, just being around other people, being encouraged and moving their bodies, you know, it's much more than how you look, it's how you feel. And that movement builds confidence, and it builds joy, and it just, endorphins, of course, you know, as a doctor, we all know the benefits of the chemicals that are released when we're moving, but there's such a joy, and I like to combine that with the outdoors as well, and I think I get a double boost.
Well, that's certainly important, and I know that you actually have a strong passion to mentor the youth and women as well. And for those that are searching for individuals that empower them and inspire them to maybe even want to transition into journalism, television, you know, what are some of those points that you can bring to the table to advise our young women and men that want to perhaps do this sort of thing?
Well, sure. You know, I've talked to a lot of young people. I've taught some classes in communications, and I think one of the frustrating things is when people get out of school, they're like, okay, where's the job? and you know, sometimes we're in an economic downturn and there's not a lot of jobs available. Now there seems to be a lot of jobs in some industries, but I always tell people, you know, practice your craft. Before I was on the air, I used to read out loud, and I looked very young and I sounded very young, so I would work on my voice. And I had a big chow chow, and his name was Malcolm, and I would set him down in front of me and I would read the news to him. So I was practicing before I was actually hired to do that job. So I was already acting like I had the job before I had the job.
That's right. So some of the other points that you had mentioned in your bio, you said be an expert in your field as well, and keep it simple, and quotables. What did you mean by that?
Well, I like to say, you know, have memorable quotes. And again, this goes back to, you want to be the most memorable person in the room. So one of the quotes I heard this week really made me laugh and made me stop in my tracks, and that was, nobody's wearing pants. So of course I had to listen to that. And again, I was doing a story on how small businesses are having trouble finding workers. And even the governor is I call it a signing bonus, you know, for people who will get a job and get off unemployment. And so I was talking to small businesses, and I was stopping in at a dry cleaners, and I was saying, well, how's business going? And so the owner was saying, well, as you can see, you know, we're absolutely full. And the problem is we had to shut down one of our stores because we don't have enough workers. And they said, the other thing, nobody's wearing pants. He goes, you look all around, you'll see blouses, you'll see jackets, you'll see linens, but we're still all on Zoom. So we're wearing from the waist up, and we're still wearing our sweatpants. And he says, nobody's getting their sweatpants dry cleaned. So that was one of the quotable quotes that I thought, that's a headliner.
That's funny. That's so funny. So words of encouragement, you know, here at Dr. Nancy Knows, we are spreading love and hope every day, and it's all free. And, you know, some of the things that I like to say is, you know, positive thoughts equal positive results. And if you think you can, you will. And I know, Bonnie, you have an encouraging story that you'd like to share with us, and it involves a young man by the name of Kyle Maynard.
Absolutely. Kyle Maynard is an extraordinary young man. He and his friend Joey Leonardo were buddies since they were 11. So Joey and Kyle are now business partners. And so one day, as young men will, they decided that they wanted to be mountain climbers. And you know, if any of us woke up one day and said, I want to go climb Mount Everest, you know that would be a challenging and lofty dream, right? And it would take a lot of work. Well, what I didn't mention was that Kyle Maynard, well, first of all, these two had never camped before. They'd never put up a tent. But Kyle, especially, was born with a condition called congenital amputation. And for Kyle, that presented as not having limbs below his elbows or below his knees. So this was especially challenging. And they went through just epic failures. They, everything that described pain and difficulty and discouragement and things that we all go through, but this was perhaps on another level. But I have to report today the two of them are world-class mountain climbers. They've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, and that's at 19,000 feet, and they've also climbed Mount I can never say it, Aconcagua in South Africa, or South America, and that's more than 22,000 feet above sea level. And the way they do it was trial and error, but the way Kyle climbs is he climbs like a bear. So it's a bear crawl up a mountain, and what he sees in front of him is really about 3 feet. And what's extraordinary to Kyle is to keep himself encouraged when he thinks he's exhausted or in pain or dehydrated. He'll look around him and go, well, can I go 3 more feet? And so he'll say, yeah, I can go 3 more feet, and he'll go 3 more feet, and he'll say that to himself again and again. And what's interesting to me is there's a point on these climbs where a helicopter can't land. There's like the last place where a helicopter could come in and rescue Kyle and take them off the mountain. And that's the hardest for him, is to pass that point. And he'll look around, can I go 3 more feet? And I use that all the time. I think of Kyle, he's an inspiration to me, whether I'm on a mountain bike or working on a project that has gotten complicated and overwhelming and discouraging. And I'll stop and say, but can I go 3 more feet? And to me, that is my encouragement, that's my inspiration, and I think we can all find examples of that.
Absolutely, it's incredible. We all have had times where we felt like, giving up and can't go on anymore. But listen, there are incredible people out there, and you are one of them. And if you think you can, you will. So listen, Debbie or Bonnie, it has been an incredible time having you on the show. How can other business owners or other individuals acquire your services for public relations or consultation?
Sure, thank you for asking. BonnieStevensPR.com, and I'm available. I'm all over Arizona, but mostly in Scottsdale, Flagstaff, Sedona, Prescott. I'm also the editor of a couple of business journals up in Flagstaff, the Flagstaff Business News and the Quad Cities Business News in the Prescott area. So always looking for great stories, great people to interview, great people to feature, and people doing great and significant things, ordinary people doing amazing things.
So listen, everyone, there is still wonderful people out there that care and that are willing to help. And you just have to reach out and ask, and tune in to Dr. Nancy Knows each week. Remember, it's not only what she knows, it's who she knows. And we'll be back next week. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.